We took a ride up to Concord today to meet the state representative who not only wants to preserve New Hampshire's death penalty, he wants to bring back the firing squad. Now, I'm mostly an eye for an eye kind of guy myself, so I get where he's coming from, but still, wow. What's prompting a lot of people to think ahead is rising gas prices. They're seeing the numbers at the pump go up, and that's got them worried about how much it's going to cost to heat their houses a few months from now. If you haven't started thinking it out yet and coming up with a plan, time's running out. The guy you're about to meet has studied the Big Dig from the beginning. He even co-wrote the case study that graduate students at Harvard use to try to understand what went right with the Big Dig and, more often, what went wrong. But you know, it's a lot more than that. It's the visual of you with state plates as someone who voted for the tax buying booze over the border. I mean, it's a big visual. Maria, you know, it's almost not even so much the adultery that's become the story here. Unfortunately, it's so common among elected officials, it's almost barely news. Yes, some politicians are just like the rest of the world, imperfect. Hillary Clinton did indeed take the state of Rhode Island, but that hasn't really dampened spirits here at all. It's a healthy amount of booing every time she appears on one of the television screens and a good amount of cheering when Obama does.
Fox 25's Jim Armstrong, you're kind of lashing back with your opinion, right? Gentle
back at him, Maria, I promise. Remember how former state Senator Diane Wilkerson handled her federal charges? Pretty much all we got was her bodyguards throwing elbows at reporters and taking some swats at our cameras. She didn't open her mouth to utter a syllable in her own defense. We don't exactly have that relationship with Councilor Turner. Guys, Columbus Day, a thing of the past here at Brown University. The future, well, they're calling today fall holiday. I, however, am calling today the Day of Three Ironies.
What do you think? You're a Gestapo? You socialist, Marxist? You people should not even exist.
Not a day for civil discourse at Brown University, but it was a big day for fans of irony, number one.
So it is just a whitewashing of the holiday.
Brown's not celebrating Columbus Day anymore after Native American students protested. They say the explorers' terrible treatment of Native peoples should not be praised. But nobody here seems to mind that the university itself is named after infamous slave traders whose ill-gotten money and gifts built Brown hundreds of years ago.
There is no reason for people to be ashamed of Christopher Columbus.
Here's irony number two, today's rally against the university led by this guy.
Not acknowledging this day is an insult to all Italian Americans.
After all, who knows insults better than former talk radio host John DePietro? You remember John. He got fired from his job at a Boston radio station after repeatedly saying terrible, vile, nasty things about people on air. Today, though, John's feeling insulted.
We don't hate you, Brown. We're just disappointed. We're totally disappointed.
Which brings us to irony number three. This small rally, very vocal with its argument that Brown is targeting Italians, denying them their global triumph. It's worth noting that by the time Columbus arrived, people had been living and visiting here for a long, long time. He didn't discover anything, to say nothing of the fact that Columbus thought he was in India at the time.
90% of what Brown University does when it comes to social or political activism is rather silly. So what?
So what? That seems to be the common refrain I hear from a lot of students here on campus. I've heard it since last spring when this name change was announced. They say, look, one decision at one school about one day does not a crisis make. President Barack Obama, only the third sitting U.S. president to receive the Nobel Peace Prize. The others were Teddy Roosevelt and Woodrow Wilson. Jimmy Carter, of course, won, but that was after he was already out of office. Responding to criticism that President Obama got the award too early in his administration, the chairman of the Nobel Committee said 2 or 3 years from now would be too late.
The Nobel Peace Prize for 2009 is to be awarded to President Barack Obama.
The stunning announcement that one of the world's youngest leaders should be given such a prestigious honor, putting those who chose him immediately on defense.
We have, on many occasions, tried to enhance what many personalities is trying to do.
The Nobel Committee saying its unanimous vote is meant to endorse President Obama's early work towards nuclear disarmament, addressing climate change, and building cooperation among the nations of the world.
I will accept this award as a call to action, a call for all nations to confront the common challenges of the 21st century.
Earlier Peace Prize recipients roundly praising the choice, from Archbishop Desmond Tutu.
What wonderful recognition.
To International Atomic Energy Agency head Mohammed El-Baradei.
In less than a year, he galvanized the world.
To former Vice President Al Gore.
I think it's extremely well-deserved.
Yet critics point out the deadline to nominate someone for the Peace Prize was February 1st, just 2 weeks after the start of the Obama administration. Displeasure in the Middle East as well, where many criticize Obama for waging war and killing innocents, hardly deserving, they say, of a prize for peace. Mr. Obama, however, saying, quote, "We have to confront the world as we know it," end quote, calling the award itself deeply humbling.
I do not view it as a recognition of my own accomplishments, but rather as an affirmation of American leadership on behalf of aspirations held by people in all nations.
One lingering question tonight: who was it that nominated President Obama for the Peace Prize? The rules of the Nobel Committee are clear. We'll never know who it was unless that person chooses to come forward. By the way, the president is going to donate the $1.4 million prize that comes with the award to charity. See you again at 11.
Can we stimulate the economy with a little extra cash? Well, Jim Armstrong is thinking about it tonight. Jim, good deal or not?
Good deal for the three of us, but maybe not for the economy as a whole. That's the problem. If the government reworked its stimulus plans and decided to write checks to each and every taxpayer as a way to stimulate the economy, well, we'd each be eligible for stimulus checks of just a little bit less than $10,000.
That would be horrible. That would be the absolute worst thing that could happen right now.
Bentley economist Scott Latham looking 3 steps ahead at what would happen if the feds ever chose to write us all big checks.
What would probably happen is they may spend a little bit of that money, but the bulk of it, the majority of it, would go into a savings account.
Generally speaking, when you get a stimulus check for a few $100, you go out and buy something. That's what people did back in 2001.
At lower amounts, people tend to spend it, but as it goes up, they start to get this nest egg mentality where they start to keep it.
So the fear is if you got 10 grand, you'd put it away, when what the government needs is for you to spend, spend, and spend.
They want to prime the pump. They want to get consumer spending going again.
And as backwards as it may sound, writing you a big check may actually not lead to more spending.
People would not spend the money. They just wouldn't. They would put it in a savings account.
We took this idea to the streets. Guess what?
So if I got a $10,000, $10,000 you said?
Yeah.
$10,000, I wouldn't go and spend it all. I would save it.
I'd pay all my bills, my rent that I'm behind on, my debts, and then put the rest in savings pretty much.
If you got that check, what would you do with it?
I would probably pay off student loans.
With the whole thing?
Mm-hmm.
Now, her idea actually isn't that bad, but it's just not as good in the eyes of the government as actually buying new stuff. Saving money by putting on a credit card or student loans would free up money for banks to lend more, but in any event, let's not get our hopes up. The huge checks are very unlikely. We almost definitely will get stimulus checks, but they'll probably only be a few $100s. How would you spend yours? Go to myfoxboston.com, check out my blog, and let me know and see what other people are saying too. Live at our Beacon Hill studio, Jim Armstrong, Fox 25 News.